What up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Nerd Gen Report. I'm your host, Pablo, and joining me, as always, is Mr. Brian Schultz. Marvel Roundup. This is going to be a very interesting show. We're going to get into the final Fantastic Four trailer, Blade, a prediction that came true with the X-Men and who will be directing that, and a quick segment on Iron Man. I mean, sorry, not Iron Man,
Yeah,
Ironheart.
exactly. Congrats on your Freudian slip there. Yes, correct.
Final Fantastic Four trailer. The fact that they still haven't shown Galactus' face, his sort of what will he have to say sort of situation, what the dialogue will be between Reed and Galactus. That to me is one of the things that I am looking forward to the most. And the little glimpses of Galactus that we've seen so far have looked spectacular. And the appropriate word that people have been using is terrifying. And what we've seen so far in those little glimpses had looked just that spectacular and terrifying in terms of how Galactus looks and what it will be. A far cry from what we saw in Rise of the Silver Surfer, which is, I'm telling you, man, I wouldn't say they should never work again, but they should never be allowed to have an opinion on something like this again, based on what they did. What did you think, Brian? You seemed a little bit underwhelmed about what they showed, and it left you still sort of in the same boat as to not necessarily excited for what they will be showing us in the Fantastic Four. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's just sort of an initial reaction to when I first watched it that it left me a little cold. That's kind of what I told you. I agree. The Galactus hints of his physical appearance are the high points of the trailer to me. And I applaud them for holding Ralph Ineson's voice. We haven't heard it. That's probably one of the things I'm most excited about, given the preparation that he put into this and how much he cares clearly about trying to get this character right. Very excited for that. There's just something about, I thought the action in general, and maybe it's because they've been seemingly holding some of it back. They really want you to see some of the same shots of like Ben Grimm running through the building and so forth. But there's just this unquantifiable extra that's not clicking for me in some of these sequences. And I'm not saying it won't necessarily in the theater. It's just I think of this trailer as supposed to be like a little bit more of the grandiose action trailer, the way the Superman trailer was, right? That we're going to show you a little more, we'll get you a little more excited for the spectacle. And in that sense, other than Galactus, I don't know that the trailer did that for me. Like, I didn't feel like in watching Johnny flying or Johnny and Ben, flying into space, that I was like, these are true cinematic wow moments. I'll give you an example, like something they gave away in a trailer in Marvel, which was, so like when they promoted Civil War, the last trailer for Civil War has the shot of Tony and Steve head to head with the repulsors firing against the shield, and that sort of shot of the two heroes, like that's a wow shot for a comics fan, right? When you see that was what was missing in this trailer to me. That one shot of like almost the four of them, or like doing this one thing where you're like, holy moly, that looks crazy cool, and I can't wait to see the scene that went into that. I just haven't seen that. And I love the affect. I said I love some of the casting, but there's just this little bit that I'm still like TBD on, and I'm still concerned about as to whether this movie will get to be everything that I think we want it to be. So that was it. That was kind of so if I'm grading it, I'm kind of like, it's sort of like a B plus A minus to me in terms of final trailer excitement build.
Yeah. That's still a good grade on a report card,
But that's not good enough for what this movie, I think. I think if we're sitting here and we're giving it a B plus grade in late July, I think that's a pretty major disappointment for what this movie needs to be for Marvel going forward.
I'm going to make a prediction.
Prediction?
With how I think Brian would possibly receive this at the end of this. And I think forget about their abilities. We've seen it before. There'll be some instances of nice shots. I think it'll be okay because the Fantastic Four again have never been really a showstopper. People just know about them because of who they are again, you know? But outside of that, in terms of them specifically and their abilities, won't be the most impressive aspect of the movie. I think their how they deal with each other will be the story that people talk about, and how they work as a team, and what they will have to deal with will be what brings people to say that they really enjoyed this movie and really liked it. But I think it'll be a good starting point for what they ultimately want us to really navigate towards, which is Doomsday, because this will lead to Doomsday. And I think people are anticipating and waiting for and are curious. I don't know about excitement, but are curious to see how this leads into Doomsday. That post-credit scene, I mean, a lot of people probably paying just to see that. What happens at the end of this that leads us to Doomsday? What is it about this movie, or about them, or about that post-credit scene? What is it about that is going to get us excited for Avengers Doomsday? I think that's what people are really mostly looking forward to seeing and are curious about. And obviously Galactus and how they deal with him and that character. I think for just like you and I, that is the biggest part, literally, about this movie that we're looking forward to seeing and are excited actually to see, not the Fantastic Four.
I mean, you're right. The Fantastic Four, by definition, these are four characters whose powers are not built on being spectacular. In some ways, it's a little more X-Men-ish in the sense of, yeah, they have abilities, but you're really focused on the personal dynamics are what drive the story forward. I mean, I think it's like, this is going to be an analogy that'll make you chuckle, but like anytime you've got these teams, families, it is always the chemistry among individual actors and as a collective that drives it. So if you think about like, what makes the crew of the original Enterprise, that William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, like it's the people, right? It's not that they have pointy ears or whatever. And I always one of my favorite teams ever, but I think they're truly a superhero team, even though it's not a superhero movie, is the team in Predator. The best part of that movie is Schwarzenegger and Carl Weathers and Jesse Ventura and Sonny Land. And like the little scenes those guys get together, you can't help but be invested. And that's what you're looking for in the first family, is these like the little bits of humor, the little bits of, putting each other down, the little bits of infighting, and then the little bits of coming together. Because this family squabbles, right? That's a hallmark of this. Like they don't get along a lot of the time. And they are A-list celebrities, which I think that to this movie's credit, they are playing up that angle. I think that's a smart move. It's one that was not really done in the first movies, a little bit in the Chris Evans, Johnny Storm. He was sort of embracing celebrity in the original one, but they didn't use that as like a driving force of these people, right? These trailers do show like these people are giving press conferences. They're on like the talk shows. They're on TV. They're pitching product. Like that is what the Fantastic Four was. And if they can use that to drive interesting situations and conversations, yeah, then that's something that's not lending itself to a trailer that can make the movie a lot better. But it's just like still a little TBD for me. Like Kirby's the one that has been from the second they cast her. I was like, yeah, that's it. That's Sue. And every line that she gets in the trailers, I buy it. She seems when she's crying, it feels emotional. When she's happy, it feels fun. Like that, I'm sold on. Johnny, I'm kind of like not sure. Like I don't know how you're feeling about Johnny. He's feeling like could be, but not sure.
No.
Reed is interesting. I thought Pascal, to his credit, gave an interesting interview where he talked about how aware he is of
he's listening to our show
and the support. Right. Yeah. But he said both, right? He knows that this is not a situation where the casting has been vilified. It's simply been controversial. there are people on both sides of this fence. And he kind of was alluding to, like, he's never played a role in his career where he felt both sides of the fence so acutely, like the people who love the prospects and the people who are like, nah, that's not Reed. And obviously, as people know on the show, like, Pablo is definitely in on this, and I've been generally out. I thought it was a very, like, an honest assessment of, like, yeah, he's read a lot of it, he's aware of a lot of it, and he's taking it all seriously. And then hopefully he's got his take on the character, and we'll see how that plays. But I think it's interesting that he's going into this seemingly very self-aware that everyone is watching him within the four, and that this is not a unilateral, he was born to play this part type of casting.
I hope that in the interaction between him and the rest, we'll get that notion of him explaining something and we have no clue what he's talking about, and Ben is the guy, and we're the thing trying to understand what is it that you're talking about, and the thing tells him, English, whatever it is, to tell him to explain it in layman's terms. I think we all have to be in that same boat and not understand what the hell he's talking about in terms of what plan to execute or why this is happening or how should we go about it. It should be confusing, and then Reed's ability to translate that for us. I think that for me will work, because that's been a consistent thing with that group. And again, Galactus looks awesome, man. So
and they changed the voice a little bit. You caught it as well as I did. They tweaked Now, I don't know if it's perfect, but somebody at Marvel was listening to something, and we were in the crowd kind of saying, hey, Julia Garner sounds just like Julia Garner, and she's not playing Julia Garner. So what's going on here? Surfer's voice definitely has a little effect on it now.
Yes, definitely. So hopefully, I mean, again, it ain't Norrin Rad, so I'm out on the whole thing. I'm just looking forward to seeing Galactus. That's all. Blade. He finally. What's that buffer dude? He says finally. He speaks. I understood it to be him putting pressure on Marvel to make it happen. And I think it is obvious to me and to many others that he still wants to do this, that he wants to do this. He's the one pushing for this, not Marvel. And he's putting the pressure on Marvel to make this happen. And if they don't speed this up, then fans will turn on the MCU. He's putting the pressure on Marvel to get this done. He says, I'm ready, Brian. What did you think of his, I guess, answer to the question of where are we with Blade? Where are you with Blade?
I think if you take his full quote at face value, it sort of implies he's no longer in the room. And despite,
I don't think he was ever in the room.
Oh, no, he was in the room. When he brought in Nick Pizzolatto to rewrite the script, that was his guy. When he picked Jan DeMong as a director, he was in the room. He's not in the room anymore. Like,
I think he was at the door knocking, like, hey, I got this guy, and they close the door.
Okay, but they hired those people, and then they fired them. So, but he says, this is Mahershala Ali, and we knew this was going to happen because of Jurassic World Rebirth. He was going to be part of the promotional tour. We've been waiting for this promotional tour, in part for this exact reason.
Man.
But this is a pretty detached answer. Quote, I'm just taking it a day at a time. I'm just doing the best work that I can. I would love for Blade to happen. We'll see. I don't know where Marvel is at right now, so I'm just looking for the next great part. I really am. Call Marvel. Let them know I'm ready. End quote. That is a very, like, I'm on the outside. That's what he's trying to pitch. It's not my fault. I'm like loosely involved, but I'm not really close to this anymore. That's kind of he's kind of treating it like that's yesterday's news. And if they want to wake me up to do it, that's great. But I've kind of moved. He's sort of saying he's moved on.
Yeah.
Without saying it. Yeah. Right? He's like, I'll do it. I'm ready to do it.
I'm ready. Yeah. I'm ready.
But he's like, I'm just looking at other great parts. I'm trying to do other stuff. He's not You've heard actors, like, listen to Millie Alcock talk about Supergirl, because obviously she's doing that. That's happening. But she's out promoting the Sirens TV show, and they're asking her about Supergirl, and it's like, she's like fired up and teasing stuff without saying. It's like that's what you expect. This is definitely like this is a cold project to him. Like he's kind of over it.
Look, man, I'm over this shit. I'm over it.
That's how like. He's like, I'll do it. I love Blade. I'll do it, but I'm over it.
You think he'll be happy with a Midnight Suns inclusion, or do you think he still wants his own movie?
I think he wants his own movie. I think that's
you think
what
he's out.
That's what
if he's Midnight Suns. You think he's out if it's Midnight Suns?
No, not necessarily. I think it would have to be pitched as like Midnight Suns leads to my movie. Like it has to go somewhere for him. If he's only going to be one of the team for Midnight Suns, I think he would say, I never signed up for that. I would not have walked on stage if that's what I thought I was doing. Everything about that says he's not treating it like a current concern. He's treating it like a past concern that if they want to bring it back to him, he hasn't closed the door on it. That's how I read that.
I wonder how long it took to get that statement ready.
So, as I said, I think because he hasn't said anything, only his lawyer really said that one quote that was another shot at Marvel, basically. But I think if you just look at the personnel involved, it had to have been once they ushered out Pizzolatto, who was his True Detective writer, and once DeMong dropped out as his handpicked director, I have to think that was the moment that he was no longer, that he was over it, and Marvel was kind of like, we don't care. Like we're not marching to the beat of your drum. We're going to do what we want to do, whether you like it or not. I have to think it's somewhere around there.
We're not marching to the beat of your drum. We're marching to the beat of Downey's drum.
Exactly.
That's what it is. Because he's writing, he's doing, I'm telling you, those credits are going to be very interesting to see.
I would love to know what Ryan Reynolds knew and knows when they scripted that line in Deadpool and Wolverine. Because you figure that was shot that would have been shot after DeMong had dropped out. Like that would have been shot when this was probably on like writer number 5. I would love to know what Ryan Reynolds knew when they put that in as like him looking at the camera being like, almost like saying it's not going to happen. I would love to know what they actually knew versus what they wrote.
Is what we knew, man. They don't care about. Like, I'm telling you, that phone call and his introduction as Blade, that one of one hat that they was just that, yo. It was that day and that's it. It was a surprise, but they did not care to move forward, or they had trouble trying to figure out how to really implement this character into their world, and why perhaps they didn't do the Fantastic Four treatment, which is do it somewhere else in another world, or whatever the case may be. Being that you have this multiverse sort of situation happening, why couldn't you include Blade into the fold? And he knew it. I'm pretty sure he had conversations with Kevin Feige, and Kevin Feige was like,
Some other time.
listen, give Mahershala Ali the opportunity to fail. You gave the Marvels, you did all these other failures. Why not give Mahershala Ali the opportunity to fail? You're not even giving him that. So to me, it's like I would have been like, or perhaps doing what he's doing and putting the ball in their court.
I think this will be the new drumbeat from him will be to wash his hands of what happened and to make it seem like they pushed him out. And if they want him back, I haven't burned the bridge, but he will kind of make it clear it wasn't his fault, right? There is a narrative you can construct around this where this became, the timing of this is a lot of why it didn't happen or didn't work out. And what I mean by that is it seems apparent from the rumor mill that when we talk about agenda movies, Blade became an agenda movie for someone at Disney. Because every iteration we ever heard that they tried to move forward versus every iteration we've heard from other directors and writers about what they wanted to pitch paints the picture of two factions, right? a faction that wanted to do a serious, hard action Blade movie, and then this ongoing Blade's daughter, whatever they wanted to do with that, where Blade's more of a mentor, supporting character in his own movie. And what I mean is, one of those is an agenda movie, and one of those is an action movie. And there's a narrative you can construct where Mahershala Ali is like, I signed up because I love Blade, the action, the vampire, the ninja. Like, that's what I want to play. And I'm polishing my 2 Oscars over here. I deserve to headline this front and center.
Exactly.
But he's getting that role at the time when Disney goes kind of as far into agenda as they went, right? Like 2020, 2021, like that's where it went to the moon. Disney Plus is coming. That's where the controversies all popped up about their content, what was going on there. And so like this project falls into that timeline where like clearly someone on the inside just wanted to do something different with it and thought this was a vehicle to promote other values and other things. And I think there's a world where Mahershala Ali is like, I'm not here for that. Yes, I may be black, but I'm not here to simply pitch this and pander that. I'm here to play this character. There's a narrative of that you can construct, which explains some of what happened here. And then he at one point takes his shot of like, here's my writer, here's my director, here's how we're going to do it. And someone in the studio is like,
I said, no, hell no.
Not happening. I mean, that at least fits the facts to some degree. And maybe they'll course correct and come around. But I just don't know that it'll ever be with him. He may have just missed his window, right? So it's like if Mahershala Ali had been 10 years younger and he signs on to do this part in 2028, maybe it goes a lot smoother because things are sort of gradually coming back to center on some of these points. We're seeing that because the box office is forcing it, right? Let's be honest. Like people are kind of saying like, there's only so much of that I want to see in projects or will tolerate. So I don't know. I'm just theorizing, but like all the rumor mill stuff that we've seen sort of points to this idea of there were two visions of Blade that were sort of consistently pitched, and Disney kept wanting to do one of those two. And it sounds like Mahershala Ali maybe only signed up to do the other one.
It would be dope that the thing that saves Marvel again is Blade.
That would be bringing it truly full circle. The true original. I mean, that people forget, man. That movie does have some hokey effects, but that whole movie is not bad, man. Go back and watch yourself some original Blade. A lot of the hallmarks of what makes modern superhero movies great are in that movie.
Yep, absolutely. Speaking of agendas, and I want to skip, we'll get to the X-Men thing because the X-Men thing was something that Brian sort of predicted as a possibility.
Into.
Yes.
Yeah, just because we were talking about
yes.
Thunderbolt in our review, and we stumbled into it, and then it happened. Although the way it happened is hilarious because this wasn't supposed to become public, and the sequence by which it got confirmed is funny.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I saw Ironheart on my vacation.
Yeah, I might have teed you up for that one, but
me and my wife saw it. We were watching it. And here's what I will say about Ironheart. I do believe that people needed at least to give it a chance before I guess review bombing it and just saying no, that this is whack, whatever the case may be, that they should have given it a chance to watch it first before saying all the things that has been said about it. There are very few things about this show that I'm interested in. The things that I am interested in are the things that I've been interested in seeing for quite some time, even before Ironheart, which is the Mephisto thing. I am curious to find out what the Hood and who the Hood is working for and why the Hood is doing. I'm more interested in that than Riri Williams' journey. To me, I find it unbelievable that, and not in a good way, but unbelievable that someone's tech being used in Black Panther 2, that she would be as broke as she is and not having the opportunities that her genius lends herself to. If she's a genius, why aren't people coming to her to build the things that they would want to be built and for her to make money? To me, her being broke and being in the situation she in doesn't make sense to me at all. Oh. Yes, this show is very much similar to this is comic book accurate, so to speak, right? But just like the comic book, there wasn't a lot of interest, only for a very select few. And this is just, to me, the execution of this isn't really done well, and didn't make sense to me in with respect to her situation. And it was just poorly executed in terms of telling a story that could have been told a different way that perhaps would have been a little bit more interesting. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll try to tread a little lightly here. Maybe I'll lead with this. There is a part of this character's experience that they're trying to communicate very clearly that I probably am not qualified to relate to. And I don't think necessarily that maybe the show is aiming to help me understand that better, but it's interesting. I listened to the folks over at the Ringerverse, where the Midnight Boys are African-American, except for one. I was very intrigued by the degree to which they found the show off-putting. And they are far more qualified to speak on some of the matters than I am. So I would recommend people listen to that, because I think their perspective, and I'd be curious to people who comment on the show who are not half Caucasian, half Asian, how you receive this show. Because I do think there are things that are specific to the experience of a young Black woman growing up in a place like Chicago and sort of having to fight for the life that she has. That is a big part of what this show is trying to convey. And that's not a life experience that I've had. So I don't like its effectiveness in doing that. I don't know that I'm the best person to speak on that. But what I can speak on is the connective tissue to Wakanda Forever. And you hit on it. The greatest failing of this show, in my opinion, is that it fails to pay off anything about what we saw from Riri Williams in Wakanda Forever, to the point where it made me more upset that she was in that movie, because I felt like her presence kind of was a distraction from some of the Wakanda plotline, and this show not carrying that forward, not using that as a launch pad to go anywhere, felt almost like why did we do this in the first place? And it was and given, I know Coogler's an executive producer on this, but it does imply he's not really that involved. But it's a complete 180 from the way T'Challa is introduced in Civil War, and then we springboard into Black Panther. We don't rewind T'Challa to being a kid. Yes, there's a flashback to Oakland as a context setter for his father, but we don't undo or pretend like the events of Civil War didn't happen when we move into his own Black Panther movie. But this show strangely did seem to sort of ignore everything she had done and accomplished and lived and experienced as part of Wakanda Forever. And that was like a global stakes type of event that she was a part of. So you would have thought, you mentioning it from a financial standpoint, but even from just like an awareness and motivation standpoint, like the decision to turn to a life of crime because she needs the money. It's like, you've suited up in like an inter-civilization war and picked a side and fought for good. Like, I don't buy that you would be so morally conflicted here. Like, you've already planted your flag. You know what I mean? Like, it just felt like that was a different character. It was almost like I was watching like Riri Williams in a different part of the multiverse in this show. So the lack of connectivity, the lack of making it feel like any of that mattered, to me was jarring, and just sort of, I couldn't recover from it in the first 3 episodes.
Some of the ideas she proposes as to why she wants to build certain things for the law enforcement, firefighters, are interesting things. She's building, I don't know why they couldn't have used that to sort of prove that her idea works in situations that perhaps could have saved lives if those instances were to occur, that her idea could possibly be of use. But
do you think that motivates? So with the hero's journey, there's almost always a trauma, right? That sort of causes the hero to emerge. Do you set like, so her trauma is this shooting, right, in the garage. That's the thing that taunts her. But do you think the way they've set that up informed her hero's arc enough? Like, it almost felt to me like she's clearly missing Gary and Natalie from a family perspective. But I didn't necessarily get the sense that like that is driving her to be Ironheart. Does that make sense? Like that event is not being used in this story as like, if only I had this capability, I could have stopped that moment from happening, which is usually what a hero in a comic book would have, right? The Bruce Wayne journey of like, I could have stopped my parents' murder if I was physically prepared to do, if I was Batman, right? That's where I'm sort of struggling, where it's like her driving arc, as you said, is more, she's sort of like a do-gooder from the start because she wants to like build the suit for this reason. She's seen Tony Stark, but Tony Stark had a trauma, right? Tony Stark was an arrogant weapons manufacturer who had a trauma in the desert and forced to build the Mark I
in a cave with a box of scraps.
That was his turning point in life. And so this character doesn't really seem to have that, and is wavering between like, I want to do good, but I need money, so I got to do bad. It's just sort of a strange like juxtaposition that I'm just not along for this ride all the way yet. Even though I generally like Dominique Thorne, but I'm not in the suit with her yet, like feeling this journey.
Yeah. What scene rubbed me the wrong way was the money situation, when the money is thrown up in the air. Like, I've never seen that in the MCU. I don't think I've ever seen that in the MCU. Have you ever? Is there a thing in the movies where money is, obviously for some, is a motivating factor, but is not necessarily the thing that motivates people to do what they do?
Well, you don't really see a lot of money, to the point about money. Like, Stark is referred to as a billionaire, but it's not like you see him throwing like the money. You just see the stuff get developed, right? It's like, it's understood. He paid.
Yeah, I mean, he's gambling here once in a while. You know what I'm saying? Because money is nothing. Like, but
and then you see
these individuals.
You see a little bit like an Ant-Man, like they're trying to steal stuff like that. There's some low level, money involved there. But like, no, you're right. I mean, this is pretty heavy on agenda right from the opening monologue, right? And I get it. I understand that, if we draw a parallel, there's the line in the ill-fated Justice League movie where Barry Allen asks Bruce Wayne, "What's your superpower?" And he says, "I'm rich." And there's that label is attached to Tony Stark here in the opening narration, where Riri Williams basically says, like, if Tony Stark didn't have money, he wouldn't be Tony Stark. And I gotta be honest, like, I kind of was like, okay, I already know what you are trying to tell me there, but I think you are selling short Tony Stark, the individual's journey, because it wasn't money that built the Mark I in the cave.
Exactly.
But you just made it seem like it was with that comment. And that, to me, was like, you are setting the tone for what you want to send message-wise, which has been very overt in a lot of ways in this show, from casting to story. And it feels like in a quest to do that, you have disconnected this character from the Wakanda Forever role. And I think you are disconnecting the show from a portion of the audience that is, as we've said in the last couple of years, is already out to get Disney to begin with. And stuff like some of the comments and some of the choices, I think people will latch onto that and be like, aha, another one of these. And that's unfortunate, because it probably takes away from some of the more interesting parts of this show, or the parts of the show that maybe had some potential in another context. What do you think of it? So what do you think of the Natalie AI? Because this is a comics accurate thing. Like, she builds, scans, and creates an AI that is her best friend. So they are not doing something here that didn't happen in the comics. But to your point about execution, is it working for you in these episodes to have the AI, the successor to Jarvis and Friday, be this manifestation of her best friend?
I think there should have been more back and forth into Natalie propelling her to be or use her intellect to do some of the things to avoid the situation that happened with Natalie. I don't know. The execution of this it doesn't feel no way connected to that instance.
But this goes to the point of why is the character there, right? So the character, in theory, I think is supposed to act as her conscience, because the character very much is kind of an echo of the past. However, I think in the context of this show, it feels to me like a large part of why the character is depicted and walks and talks the way that it does is to kind of just ask the question, why does an AI always have to sound like a British person of a certain persuasion? I just have that feeling of like the way this interactions are being used. To your point, it's not being used to propel the hero as much as it probably could. And it's being more like, well, why can't AI look and sound like this person or that person? Like, I get it. I get what you're saying, but like, I don't know that it's servicing the Ironheart of it all, even though it is, you're pulling it from the comics. I don't know that it's servicing the Ironheart of it all the way that it probably could. What do you think of Ramos?
I think it's Ramos doing his thing.
It's Ramos being Ramos. Do you think it works in this show?
The third episode got me a little bit curious.
The last part, right?
Yes.
The last part.
What is he doing?
Of the 3 episodes.
Yes.
It's the best part of the 3 episodes.
And apparently the final episode is really, really good. What really, really good is to most people, I don't know, but we'll see. But that, yes. I think if this show doesn't go back to how he became the Hood or why he's doing it, instead of it being some sort of monologue as to why he's doing it, I think that is a disservice to the character, and not showing that motivation as to why he's doing what he's doing.
That last scene, and it's weird. Up until that point, you're right. It was Ramos being Ramos, but it was almost like he seemed to be doing something different than everyone else. Because like weirdly, like his crew seemed kind of almost more goofy than sinister, but he seemed sinister. So that was kind of like, I don't know, like I didn't quite know, like, were you guys reading different scripts or like what was going on here? But then at the end of the third episode, his performance made a lot more sense because you kind of got the tease of presumably Mephisto, but the tragedy, the emotional gravity. But you know what it made, when I saw that scene, I was like, this is where I'm starting to do Marvel's job for them. And, I get it. I'm not a writer, I'm not a director. But isn't the fundamental hook of a show like this magic versus science and tech? Isn't that the fundamental real force, right? So that's why we're spending all this time on the other stuff, and they want to do that, and that's fine. But if you're talking about like the superhero of it all and what makes it compelling, it is kid genius who is rooted in science against supernatural. And how do you solve that, right? And I was thinking back to Thor 1, where he's explaining it to Jane, where he's like, your ancestors called it your ancestors called it magic, you call it science. I come from a place where they're one and the same. That's what this show should be. And that I would actually be here to watch. I would be here to watch the suits, the tech, the AI up against magic. That's interesting to me. Which is sort of what they're setting up, but it's like it's taking for a 6-episode show. It's like we're already into episode 4, and we haven't even gotten close to that going head to head.
Well, the fact that I'm looking towards the episode where she now has a piece of his hood, and she's going to analyze it and see what this is. So I'm curious to see what she discovers. I think it's just slow. The people in that group could be interesting, but they're just there, they're just there for the money, for the that's
Stain's,
it. And it's
Stain's kid, like Alden Ehrenreich playing Ezekiel Stain didn't interest me. That character, at least in this show, is not really much like his counterpart in the comics so far. But it's just like a name drop connecting it to, and the other reason I didn't like it was like, I don't think you want to draw too many direct comparisons and connections to Iron Man. Like, so having the son of the villain from Iron Man 1 pop up in this show felt kind of like, you're inviting Downey into the show without having him there. And that's not a good move, in my opinion. So,
and most people seem to think that is a piece of the show that's missing in terms of that connection, right? I think people are people who like it, fine. If you like it, but
I think the question you should ask yourself, though, is like, and this is my last comment on it. We talk about, again, the female-led projects, right? With the struggle of this. And, Marvel is showing that it's not great at TV. They basically have one really good show, one pretty good show. But, they're not doing a great job by the female characters here. They're introducing and casting some really interesting actresses, but like Echo, She-Hulk, Ironheart, what happened with the Marvels? I think Ms. Marvel's a pretty good show, but nobody saw it. Like, they're not. Are they really helping? Are they really helping? I guess that's a question. They're casting. They're representing. They're definitely employing people in roles that like are expanding. That's good in general, but with what's being put out, are they helping or hurting the broader cause here? Because not a lot of these have been great, and the actresses in these parts have sometimes felt trapped, sometimes seem trapped in these kind of subpar productions.
They're hurting the future projects being made like this, but not necessarily like this, but what it could represent and be about. Again, the wrong people are in the room. I mean, the writer of this is some of the people that wrote She-Hulk. How are they in the room? How are they even writing this? Like, why give them, not to say that they don't deserve an opportunity, but if you're trying to make this work, why give them the opportunity to write something like this and it still not work?
Well, again,
it baffles me.
You got to, again, it's the balance of creative and commercial. And at some point, like if the ratings aren't there, if the results aren't there, you can either double down and say, I know better and keep doing the same thing, or you can adjust. I mean, I think people know which side of that coin we're on, but other people feel differently. I mean, we know some high profile directors, and not just, women or people of color. There's high profile directors and creators who don't give two about what people think. They just do the same thing over and over again. And if the results aren't there, it's the people's fault, not theirs. I'm not saying that's the case with the people in this show, but to your point, like if you've been writing on multiple of these productions and you keep leaning into certain themes and those themes push some of the audience away and you don't adjust, that's on you. That's not on the audience. I mean, you could say the audience needs to be more enlightened. That's great. But at the end of the day, you work for a business. You don't work for a charity. So these shows need to be successful, and these characters, in theory, need to go someplace in the broader universe. And again, it's like I'm adding Dominique Thorne to the list of like charismatic actress, where I just feel like where Coogler left her in Wakanda Forever has kind of just been abandoned by what this show has turned into.
Was left there. And this is what, to New Rockstars and Eric Voss, this is what giving up on a show looks like, really looks like.
Yeah, that is also true. There's minimal promotion of this. This is like a 2-week dump. Yeah, this was even more so than Echo. This is we're trying to push this right before Fantastic Four comes out. So they're out there promoting Fantastic Four. Nobody's noticing this. Like, this is an under the rug show.
And again, the only good thing about this show is that it's only 6 episodes, and we get to see all 6 in 2-week span, and then goodbye, no more. And lastly, Schreier official to direct X-Men. Brian, what do you think?
So let's just do the sequence here. We did our review show of Thunderbolts, and I made a comment. We were talking about the feel of the character-driven show, and I said this feels kind of like an X-Men story more than an MCU story. And then lo and behold, rumor comes out, Jake Shire's under consideration. But here's the funny part. So he, meaning Schreier himself, would not comment on he clearly was told by Marvel and Disney, you can't say. So he said a quote, even if that was confirmed, I couldn't tell you. That was his quote about that. So you know who did confirm it? Ryan Coogler. Someone asked Ryan Coogler in an interview about X-Men, and he said, "Oh, Jake's directing that one." So that after he said it, Marvel then had to confirm, yeah, okay, he's directing it. So Ryan Coogler, spoiler alert, he gave you the...
Oh, we got to add him onto the list. Tom Holland, Ruffalo, and now Coogler.
Ryan Coogler. He will tell you.
Can't say,
he will give it to
can't
you
tell
straight.
these dudes nothing.
So there you go, Jake Schreier. And I applaud the decision. I think, despite we talked about it, despite the commercial results of Thunderbolts, I think it's one of the more cohesive, interesting things Marvel has done in the post Endgame era. And he definitely did a nice job of working with characters who, quite honestly, probably had limited upside in some cases, and got pretty good performances from all the actors involved. I'm more than willing to see him take a shot at some of these. Although I got to go in a minute here, but did you hear the craziest rumor about X-Men casting? I want odds on this, and if it happens, this will be the greatest day of superhero casting of all time. The latest rumor on who Kevin has been trying to get to play Magneto. Have you heard this?
Isn't it Denzel?
No, that's been out there for a while. This one was the one where I was like, if he pulls this off, Kevin might be back.
Matt Mickelson?
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Oh, yeah. I saw that.
Yeah, first off, that's not happening. But you imagine, the minute they said, I was like, can you imagine Daniel Day-Lewis in an X-Men movie? You imagine what he would do to prepare for that part?
People will hate him. I mean, because he's a no-nonsense type of dude.
Oh, he gets
into character.
So that's what I mean. Could you imagine him being Magneto and like forcing people to treat him as Magneto while he was playing this part? I think part of why it came up was because he sort of quasi-unretired to take a supporting part in his son's directorial debut. But this has been floating around. It will not happen. Daniel Day-Lewis is not doing 12 years of Magneto. But God, if they could only get him for one movie, I would.
I mean, Brian, money talks at the end of the day.
Everybody's got a price for the $1 million man.
Yo, if they get him, you know he is getting Downey money, yo. He would have to be getting Downey money. There has to be some sort of situation where it's just not necessarily just a paycheck, but money for the rest of his life and for his kids. Who knows? But especially if his kid is doing movies. Hey, if I do this, you got all the money you want to do movies for the rest of your life if you want to. That hopefully is good. But if they were to get him, it would certainly be interesting.
My prediction is if he took this part, by the end of filming, he would actually be able to move objects with his mind and his hands.
He will certainly be practicing. He would be like, let me get that cup. And somebody in a green screen would have to just make him believe that he's actually doing it. But yeah, a lot going on in Marvel. Some excitement, some absolutely disappointing situations as well. But let's see what happens, man. Fantastic Four is coming out very soon. We'll see what happens with Blade if they push Marvel to actually do his bidding, because I think that he's putting the pressure on them, and not him, but the fans. He's forcing the fans to put pressure on Kevin. If Kevin is on if Kevin is on the red carpet, people are gonna be asking him about this, and he's gonna have to give a good answer. Give a good answer this time, because the answers you've given us have been horrendous. X-Men in good hands, let's see. And Ironheart, disappointment. And there could have been some, again, people who like it, good for you. People who don't like it, there's a reason why. And it seems to be the majority of people that feel this way about it. Even after it has come out, people are just not interested.
Yeah.
Not interested, Brian. where you had the opportunity to make people interested in the story that you would have told, but you're telling a story like, what is this?
What the hell are we doing here, Harry?
Let us know in the comment section below what you guys think of all of this. Remember to hit that like and subscribe. Comment in the comment section below. And if you're gonna comment, come on, man, make sense of what the comments that you're gonna. You know what I'm saying? Because there was this dude.
That's all right. Don't worry about it. It's okay. If you don't know how the Stubbs A-list works, it's fine. It's fine. Just to tell
That's
people,
what I was trying. Yeah.
If you're a member of Stubbs A-list, you pay a monthly fee. You get to go to 4 movies a week without having to pay again. So if you're ever wondering why I go to movies multiple times, it's because I've already paid with my subscription for 4 movies a week. Rarely can I do 4 a week, but that's the point of when I say I've seen F1 twice before opening day. That's why I can. It's only my time that I'm giving up to do that. So
if it still doesn't make sense to you, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. There's nothing more we can say or do.
It's partially part of our job too, to see stuff. So we try to see it for you. Yeah.
And if we like it, we're gonna see it multiple times.
Yeah. And also I like studying some stuff like Superman, big movies. I find watching it more than once is helpful because you don't get everything the first time, especially when I'm trying to prep for the show. So it's like first time is an experience, second time I'm taking notes. Like, there's a process to it. So
yeah.
But it's already paid for effectively by the subscription.
Yeah,
I'm not just like shelling out all these dollars to pay for all these
exactly. Yeah. Now you have a reason. Now you can subscribe and have that opportunity yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, let us know in the comment section below what you guys think, and we'll see you next time on the Nerd Jet Report.